In 2018, I met a guy called Jer and his partner was called Ginny, and they joined the academy 7 years ago. At the time, they were school teachers, and they managed to become financially free. They came and shared their story on Winners on a Wednesday, but sometimes people want to know, where are they now? Where are you old students from like almost a decade ago? So I asked Jer and Ginny if they'd agree to do a mini documentary showing what they've done over a 7-year period. And I thought this would be really valuable to you guys, my YouTube audience. If you like this kind of content, then do me a favor and just hit the like button, drop a comment and let me know what you like best. And I'll do more of what you like to see. So enjoy.
Hi, I'm Jay Greg.
I'm Ginny Lean.
We've built a portfolio at around £5.5 million worth of property, which has got a rent run of £25,000 to £30,000 a month. I've got to admit, when we first started up here, certainly that first 12 months, that first 18 months.
It was hard, yeah.
Well, you were still teaching.
Yep.
And I've got to admit, I couldn't have done that without you, because you're quite patient. But remember all the compliance that you were doing?
Yeah, all the compliance, all the analysis, all the doubt as well about what actually made a good deal. I mean, do you remember setting that very first deal and that moment of complete excitement and disbelief almost that this process does actually work, but there's a lot of blood, sweat and tears that goes into it.
Here we are at the first property we found, sourced, packaged and sold. So a lot of people say, oh yeah, I can't find my first deal. And we kind of get that, right? Because we struggled to start with. We had tried lots of different patches and then we found this HMO. So we live in Cornwall and we travelled through about 10 different patches and settled in Grimsby and Cleethorpes, 7.5 hours away. Well, you ran the numbers, you analysed the deal, we put it through, and the guys that we were co-sourcing said, yeah, we know we can find an investor for this. I had a phone call from Ginny, I believe it was early December, the deal has sold. And this is the very street that I was skipping up and down, but it fell through the very next day. And that was our learning,
It's just mad watching this now to think that he almost quit because one deal fell through, but he'd have missed out on all of the money, all of the success. Imagine if he'd have quit. He'd still be a school teacher, he'd be working long hours. It's just mad. So if you're in the early stages and you've had a bit of trouble or a deal's fallen through, remember, don't give up. It does get better.
Here's the property. Saw a 5-bed HMO. I think it was worth £4,000 or £5,000, this one. And then all of a sudden to be hit, to have your legs taken away and to feel that almost heartbroken. And that was probably the closest time that I've ever come to giving up this journey.
It up, yeah. We
sold it again, and bizarrely, the investor then moved to Thailand and
never seen again.
So a lot of learning has come from this. But then we went back to the vendor 6 or 7 months later and just said, look, what's your position? And we really understood his position. And we realised that this vendor could benefit from a lease option agreement. We secured it at $94,000. 7 years later on, we're exercising this now. It's at a valuation of just shy of $143,000. So it means that we can actually purchase this property with no more of our money in.
I think one of the reasons that they've done so well is because they're so personable. And I know Ginny and Joe really well. They genuinely want to help people. So they've got this deal here that's some failed deal, and they've gone, okay, this is a failed deal, but how can we negotiate something? How can we come up with a win-win solution? And that's what you've got to be. The property business is a people business, and this is about finding solutions, and then you'll get the deals, and then the money will come.
I started in property before I met Samuel Leeds, made a ton of errors, and one of the biggest errors and experiences was being caught in the crunch of 2008, because I'd left teaching. I was living my dream, and then I had to go back to teaching because I wasn't strong enough.
I used to teach with Jeremy many years ago. We taught in the same school together, so we knew each other. We've known each other for a very, very long time, and we've been together about 10 years. So out of the two of us, teaching-wise, I was obviously the best.
Imagining life back as a teacher, I do sometimes actually think about it, and maybe on some days where things, because property is a roller coaster, isn't it? And some days you have and you think, life has got to be easier. And I think my barometer is wet afternoon, bottom set year 9, where would I rather be? And I know for sure I'd rather be here.
Yeah.
But teaching all those hours of marking and all those hours.
I've
And
never once looked back.
no, haven't missed teaching, but I do feel very grateful and proud that I did it, because I think it's been a massive part of my life.
I've got a bigger picture with that. Now we've got friends now that are coming up to retirement age and retiring at 55, but they're all looking for other jobs.
Yeah, I can't imagine having a job.
What you learn about property with the Academy, not just financial literacy, but it's so much more than that. And, it's personal development. And that's the biggest part of my journey, for me to see life in a different way.
Yeah, completely.
If I'd had the knowledge of the Academy, if I'd had the support of the Academy, it may have been a very different story. So we joined the Academy, I think, in September time, 2018.
Yeah. I mean, the Academy back then was very, very different, wasn't it? And I think the community that we could already feel part of at that time was great. And it was the same price then as it is now, I believe.
That's what I can't believe.
So this is one of our 6-bed, 6-ensuite HMOs, which we purchased 140,000.
Let's come and have a look inside. So this property doesn't actually need a communal area because all the rooms are in excess of 100 square feet. However, we felt it's important.
Jeremy is the strategist. He's the blue sky thinker of our business. And we need him to enable us to move forward. I'm probably the one who's got my feet maybe on the ground a little bit more. I'm a bit more realistic in terms of time and expectations. And for us, that works really, really well because we need both sides of those things in our business.
We obviously live 7 hours away from here, but without a good team, you're absolutely stuffed. And Jill is one of the team members, which is the eyes and ears of what we do. So she'll pick up on maintenance stuff. There's a communication system through WhatsApp where she can report stuff. Absolutely critical to what we do. Jill, do they stay on top of the communal spaces generally?
They do. It does help to frighten the tenants that the cleaners come in, but other than that, yeah, they do actually.
So this is the attic room, and this has been made into a really nice self-contained space. We've got a nice large bathroom, bedroom and living area. So this took us about 8 months to do the full conversion on this one, from purchase to getting it tenanted. There was always unexpected things. I think for us the big thing was, because we were obviously remote investors, we relied a lot on a project manager, and it worked really well initially. And then when it came down to the finer details, that's where things got a little bit lost, and we found that we had to actually take it back over to get it over the line.
It's so easy and tempting in business to do everything yourself, but notice they're talking about the project managers. And this is really important, especially with HMOs, that you've got people, specialists. Again, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. If you've got people project managing your deals, doing a good job, and you're just overseeing them, this is the smart way to run your business. Otherwise, it would just be a job.
So coming forwards into other projects, we learned we didn't actually need a project manager. We were better off doing it ourselves. And by this point, we'd got a brilliant build team and relied far less on telepathy, if you like, and being able to read minds. It was far more based on, the fact that we'd worked together. So this is the bedroom. For us, something like this, we could charge probably an extra £25–30 a week for, taking it up into the £160 a week bracket.
So with bricks and mortar valuation, you find comparables within a quarter of a mile that have sold within 6 to 12 months, and you work it out per square meterage. The difference between a bricks and mortar valuation and a commercial valuation, the commercial valuation is based on the income. They look at the gross annual rent and then they divide it by a yield. Now, a yield in property terms is looking at the value of a property compared to its income. Then you times it by 100. It's a great way of super boosting and pushing up the value of the property.
This is golden advice. A bricks and mortar valuation is based on the property and the comparables, the size, the location and the spec, whereas a commercial valuation is based on the rental income, the revenue of the property. And understanding the difference is how investors can take a £114,000 property and then refinance it at £275,000. And that's how you recycle your money and scale fast.
We bought this one at 140. It came into valuation at 275. Now we're mentoring. A lot of people come and speak to us about commercial valuations. My advice is find a good broker. You've got them on the academy.
It's not a given, is it? I think that's the key thing with commercial valuations.
No.
It's not a given, and I think the advice is always to ensure that whatever you do will still work on a bricks and mortar valuation.
You know, when you've got that broken mindset, when you feel that, well, we were 30 grand in debt, right? And, you know, we were living in a house that was a doll's house, really. But once you realise that there is an absolute abundance of money, and as a deal sourcer, yeah, okay, so a lot of these people are based in the southeast. We used to meet them at networking events in London, and they had money that was burning a hole in their pocket because they didn't have the time to go out and find it themselves. I think the selling thing for both of us was a challenge to start with. £30,000 I know is a big figure, and I was basing it on our experience of earning a fixed wage as a teacher, coming in every single month, and the fact that we were going backwards at that point. The pressure was massive, but also working with somebody as closely as I've worked with Ginny, who's life partner and business partner. It has been an absolutely awesome journey. When we met Samuel, he said, look, you two are £30,000 in debt. You can go on to buy refurbish refinance, but right now you need to be selling deals to pay off debtors.
Coming from a place where you had no idea what being a deal sourcer actually was, once you decided that we were deal sourcers, then it was, well, what does a deal sourcer actually need to do?
The pressure was eased because one of us was going to come out into property full time. Ginny grasped the nettle and she decided to stay in teaching, and she stayed in teaching for a couple of years. And that allowed us to cover our overheads, which for us was massive. And becoming a deal sourcer, you've got to become a king or queen deal finder. And without that skill, you know, you can't sell a deal, you can't take it on yourself, you can't JV with it. So I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to become a deal sourcer and that's my strategy. No, find a strategy that you know that you can find. And let's go back to this dominating your patch. You know, this happens to be the 11th patch or 10th patch that we've tried. And we know what works for it because we've spent time looking and doing the due diligence. We've spent time networking and actually living in this community.
I think this is such a powerful point to remember. Just started 30 grand in debt, but instead of waiting years to save up and pay off his debt, he began sourcing deals for other investors. That's a strategy many people overlook. You can make money in property without owning property, without having money, even if you're in debt. And instead of trying to pay off that debt and save up, you need to think, how can I make a lot more money? What you focus on expands. If you focus on thinking about the debt, then the debt's going to grow. If you think about actually, how can I just make money, fast cash, the debt will take care of itself.
God, do you remember this, Joe, when we first joined the academy 7 years ago?
In 2018.
I know, look at it.
Do you remember first meeting him as well in that crash course? Oh man.
What a
we
difference.
can say that we were at a crash course.
Yes, exactly.
But that crash course was like the new academy dinners. I think there was about 900 people in the room. Do you remember walking through the door?
Yeah, loads of
energy. Did you say it or I say it?
Say what?
You must have been a nightmare at school. I've got to admit, I was absolutely
blown away. But look at this. I mean, this was what we had, wasn't it? I mean, you look at everything that Academy members have now, all the online stuff, the portal, the mentors.
There was no online, was there?
No, exactly. Being part of the family, and that's what it said in 2018, and I think for sure we are now part of this amazing family, the Academy family, the mentoring family, the whole Samuel Leeds team is like one big family. And I love it. I think it's just such a wonderful, wonderful thing to be part of. Really proud of it, and yeah, very, very grateful for it.
This was the first property that we ended up selling to our own investor list. So this is a 6-bed, all en-suited HMO. Now, we pulled this deal together because we knew that we could uplift the rents that the landlords were getting. So we always sold deals the way that Samuel taught us, which was to make sure that the investor paid the finder's fee in full. and upfront, which is something that a lot of new deal sources struggle with, but it's a mindset thing. For this property, this was one where we were creating urgency within our investors, and it was really tough. Because not only were we taking the money up front, but we were only giving them 3 hours from the time it was advertised to the time we took it down and sent it over to our co-sources. Now, that 3-hour window sounds really tight, but bizarrely, again, it was one of the things that we almost...
Yeah, it was the process, wasn't it? And we learned to trust the process, to follow what we had been taught,
Yeah.
and it did actually work.
Yeah.
Would you travel 7.5 hours away from home if you were starting in the academy all over again? What do you advise?
Right, I want to be
Mentees.
clear, this is not regret.
No,
right?
I get that.
This is not regret. I wouldn't change a thing of what we've done because it's got us to where we are. But no, I wouldn't travel 7 hours.
I have always lived in Cornwall, yes, for all of my life. I was born here, went away for a short time to go to university, but have lived in Cornwall for all of my life. And I absolutely love living here. It's a little bit of a hidden treasure. I mean, the scenery is just stunning. The people are great. People sometimes say to me, would you ever leave Cornwall? And I don't know, it probably sounds a little bit close to say I haven't got any need to leave Cornwall. I actually really enjoy living here. I really love the fact that we are near our family, we are near friends. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
I think what I've learned is there is good and bad everywhere. And people think, when we speak to them at academy dinners, for example, and inner circles, oh, you're so lucky to live in Cornwall, and they see properties like this. But there's also the tough sides, I think. For me now, coming back here, I think I've probably learned from you about gratitude and being truly grateful for every day, and don't half make it easier when you've got a beautiful place like this, right?
Exactly.
And we've come here in times of down, times of abundance, times of scarcity.
Rain, shine, deserted, busy.
And it's pretty damn consistent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I reckon it'll be pretty damn consistent after we've gone as well.
100%.
I'm glad we shared this with thousands of people around the world. I absolutely love it.
Having a patch 7 hours away from home has certainly been challenging. In the early days, I was very much based in Cornwall, and Jeremy was the one doing the majority of the travelling. And knowing what I know now, there's deals on your doorstep. You do not need to travel 7 hours away from home. For us, it was an adventure. It was a time of life that was brilliant for us to go and do something like this. But you don't have to go 7 hours away from home to find really, really good deals.
This journey is so much more than about property and financial freedom, and it is so awesome to be part of. The element of pride of being a mentor now for Samuel Leeds. This journey is just awesome, and starting people off with life-changing decisions that they're making, because it has changed, absolutely changed our life. Straight away, you've got scope on here to do something. I can see where you're going. You can get planning permission to convert that. What are you doing as far as your inner circles? Where's your nearest inner circle?
Gravesend. I went to it a couple of weeks ago.
Cool. Is that your first time?
Yeah, first time.
Right, you've got to start getting there. You've got to start. That's going to be your power team. How can you build that community around you? It's about surrounding yourself with like-minded people that are overcoming the challenges that you're facing. And then as you overcome those challenges, it's looking at people behind you that have just joined the academy and pulling them up alongside.
For me, I love the fact that I've come from this very traditional, very much being a school teacher, had been for 25, 30 years by the time I finished, been going from payday to payday, working to my pension, 7 years down the line, and my life is completely unrecognisable.
I loved teaching, so I wouldn't want anyone to be watching this thinking that I'm dissing teaching. And for me, it was all about proving to myself that there was more that I could do, proving to my children and my family that there was more and there's a different way of doing things. My life has changed massively. I used to look forward to school holidays year after year. I don't even know when the school holidays are now, which has been a massive transformation. And in terms of our lifestyle, it's given us so much more flexibility. We're financially secure. It's just been an awesome transformation. And I love being able to tell people the story that, you know, if I can do it from that kind of start, then anybody can, and it's so true.
This property, was a family residential home. This one was around 105,000. It works really nicely for contractor accommodation. So we're letting properties to people not as their primary residence on a short to medium term basis. We really like adding value to those people. And I think it's been a learning curve about marketing and finding places because, wherever you get good opportunities, you get a lot of competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in this area, we talk to lots of mentees about serviced accommodation and short-term stays and contractors and working professionals. And it's about knowing who is going to stay in this property. So we knew it wasn't going to be for tourists or holiday makers or families, but it was very much designed for contractors. And then it's about finding out where they are coming from. So we have lots of links with the refineries, the pharmaceuticals, the wind farms that are in this area.
And it's been a learning curve.
It really has, yeah.
Because even though we went through the training with Samuel Leeds, we were probably a little bit arrogant when we bought it. We just thought it was all going to come. And for the first 3 months it did, and we were full. And then all of a sudden, everybody moved out of the area. We had to start from scratch, basically, didn't we? And I think the marketing now, we've got it, but I can remember that time of, oh my word, it's now gone from full, 3 months full, to an empty. What are we doing wrong? When you take on a property, it's how you market it.
Yeah.
Right? And this is a model that has really worked for us. So this was a guest house. The first evening I was here, the TV wasn't working. So I called him up, and he turned up, looking really scruffy in a boiler suit. And as I remember it, he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a property investor." And he said, "Oh, I might have a property to sell."
Yes, you were very excited, weren't you?
I met him for breakfast over a bacon butty. He said, "Well, actually, I've got 2 or 3 properties that I might want to sell." And over the next 3 weeks, it turned out he had 17 and he wanted about 3.5 million for them. I've got you to thank on this one because I was just wanting to go full bore, full into this. And what did you say?
Don't put your eggs in one basket, I believe. Something like that.
And I didn't like it very much, did I? But it was the wisest thing I think you've possibly ever said. Because we spent maximum 20% of our time, the 80-20 rule. 20% on this time, 80% on harvesting low-hanging fruits. And that kept us solvent, that kept us buoyant. And whether this deal went through or not, it wouldn't have bankrupted us. And I can remember when you phoned me and said, the deal's gone through. And it was worth £65,000.
It was, yeah.
Which is a lot of money.
And it all started here, and that was because you did exactly what Samuel said to do, which was to tell everyone what you're doing.
This is incredible, really. If you think about it, Joe meets the vendor who owns 17 properties worth £3.5 million. But notice the lesson, don't put all your eggs in one basket and just think about that one person, because it's about balancing big opportunities with smaller, consistent wins that keep the momentum, that keep some wins. Don't wait for this. A lot of people say, oh, I'm just working on this big thing, and I'm working on this big, and then it never comes off. So you want to be waiting on that, yes, while continuing working on the small wins.
I'm glad we found this place. But the big bugbear, and I know we've talked about challenges, is that Sienna Lettings is actually really getting our portfolio managed optimum level. It's never going to be perfect. I know we've got to refine systems. We're going to come to terms with the Renters' Rights Bill, see what comes out the other side. But without a shadow of a doubt, I'll be investing here.
There's so much more out there than I had ever dreamed of. And like I said earlier, property for me wasn't something that I ever thought that I would be able to
I hadn't even thought about it as an option. And then starting the training and looking at the different strategies and looking at how accessible it actually is was absolutely mind-blowing. And the fact that being in a career which I thought I was going to be in forever was one way of doing it, and then just to have that blown apart. And the really, no. And the really exciting part for me is that whatever my kids decide that they are going to do in their journeys, that they will always have seen me do something completely different. And for me, that's really, really important, that they've seen
That really likes you.
that there is, yeah, that's my why.
Whether we're sat on Cleethorpes Promenade, eating fish
On a
and
hot,
chips,
sunny August day.
it's enjoying that part of the journey.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Do you know, cheers to Samuel Leeds.
100%. 100%.
Where would we be now without Samuel Leeds?
I don't know, I can't even begin to imagine.
I want to say a massive shout out to Jer, Greg, you're a legend. Ginny, you're amazing. And this is a really interesting point about them as well. So when they left their jobs as teachers, because they were a little bit disillusioned with the education system, but when they became financially free, there was a point when they were like, I don't even know, we kind of missed teaching a bit. We loved seeing the growth in people. And I asked them if they could come back to some of the programs and help and share their tips and educate others. And now they do. They give up so much of their time helping people. And I really think that's an important lesson. This is not just about making money. This is also about helping people. And the property community is such a wonderful community with people like Jer and Ginny. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see more winners on our Wednesdays coming up next week.